Trevor did food delivery driving for local restaurants on nights and weekends to supplement his income and support his wife and kid. If his wife Nadia was working, he would occasionally take his son, Lucas, with him. Lucas was 8. It always seemed relatively harmless, especially since the car was in view when he would go to the restaurants to pick up the food and make deliveries at home or business. In cooler weather, he would lock the doors and leave him inside the car. In warmer weather, he would take him in with him. Lucas liked this at first and thought it was exciting to be at work with Daddy making food deliveries. The excitement didn't take long to wear off after a few months of occasionally accompanying Dad so many times. He would leave him in the car with his tablet playing. This weekend was bright and sunny springtime. It was beautiful out and perfect weather. Trevor bartered with Lucas and told him they would take lunch break at the park. That excited Lucas enough to agree to accompany Dad while Nadia worked. She worked most weekends as a nail artist and didn't want Lucas breathing in chemicals though mild or soaps and perfumes all day. Trevor had one last pickup and delivery before lunch. The pickup happened to be at a burger spot, so his plan was to get him and Lucas a burger and fries at the same spot to take to the park. So, he had 2 orders, one for him and Lucas and another for the customer who lived adjacent to the park. Since he basically was ordering he and Lucas food on demand, it was taking quite a while, but Trevor could see Lucas from inside the restaurant while he awaited the food. Trevor finally came out with 2 separate orders and immediately got into the car and proceeded to chat with Lucas. He asked Lucas if he wanted a few fries to hold him over, but Lucas didn't respond. He asked again, except this time, he looked over his shoulder to the back seat. Trevor was horrified. Lucas was nowhere to be found. Trevor got out of the car and started hyperventilating. He even found himself looking under the car in a panic and a tree nearby the parking space just in case Lucas was playing hide and seek. By this point, he was hysterical and went into the restaurant asking if a little boy came in. Trevor went into the bathroom looking for him, even the ladies' room, since he would go in with Nadia sometimes if there was no family restroom and he wasn't present to take him to the men's room. By now, such a commotion had all the customers aroused that the restaurant manager came out to offer assistance. By now, Trevor had called Nadia while she was at work, but he didn't give her a chance to respond as he was so upset. By the time Nadia came to the scene, the cops were also present. Trevor was so apologetic to Nadia for letting Lucas out of his sight. All she could do was console him. She was in tears and at a loss for words. He couldn't understand why she was so calm and not upset with him for losing Lucas. But he figured she was probably in shock and trying to process it all. A few feet away, when he calmed down a little, he noticed that his wife was off to the side speaking with the cops. When she returned to Trevor, she told him that they needed to go home and await instructions from law enforcement in case the kidnappers called to negotiate. It didn't make sense to Trevor since they had cell phones, but he complied. Shortly after arriving home, Nadia gave him a drink of water. A few minutes later, his words started to slur, and he fell sound asleep. Later on in the evening, Trevor woke up in a panic and called out Lucas' name. He was startled to see his parents and brother present. He asked if they found Lucas. Nadia took in a deep breath as she quietly sobbed and told Trevor that Lucas passed away a year prior, from shock from a bee sting. Lucas was not in the car with Trevor earlier that day. Nadia explained that they were at a park having a picnic when Lucas got stung by a bee a year prior and starting having breathing difficulties, and by the time EMS had arrived, he was gone. Trevor was confused and insisted that Lucas was with him a few hours prior during his deliveries and got kidnapped. Then he started rethinking a bunch of thoughts all at once in his head. He flashed back to his wife talking to the cops off to the side and even leaving the house alone that day. But wait, he thought. His wife reassured him that it wasn't his fault. Trevor was experiencing PTSD. Sometimes people relive events or even have altered events of the past trauma as a way of coping with grief. His brother Robert, who was a family medicine doctor, went on to tell Trevor that he knew this day would come since Trevor seemed to be coping so well. That they encouraged him to speak with a grief counselor, but that Trevor insisted he was okay. This was the first time Trevor had resumed food delivery since Lucas passed away, and she assumed it meant that he was okay, but Trevor was not. This is not a true story, this is fiction. But PTSD is a real disorder. If you need help, please talk with someone. There is always hope even when things seem hopeless.